Well, here we are, made it back to beautiful Southern California wine country. Got the Mclaren back safe and sound from Ohio. And let's go ahead and check out this scenery around us. Yeah, love opening these doors. It's just so special. You gotta be careful getting in and out. But what's that? It's not a Ferrari. It's not a Lamborghini. Well, how's it going, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Had a great day. Here we are, made it back to Cali with my McLaren, and I've got my C8 Corvette out here today. And yep, this is a comparison that is long in the works. As you know, first ever mid-engine Corvette, right? This car right here is so special. This is America trying to compete with the exotics, which that's what we have right here to my left, a British supercar, a Mclaren. And as you know, it's not just McLaren out there, there's Lamborghini and Ferrari, and also you have Porsche and tons of other brands out there. So what Chevrolet saw coming was that, hey, we're reaching the limits of our front engine platform. Why not try to compete with the big dogs, which are mid-engine? So as you can see right away though, these two look pretty similar to an extent, right? This is America, the Corvette team, Chevrolet, trying to learn what they can from exotics to make their own American exotic mid-engine supercar. This car right here is just so special. I love it. We've tracked it so many times now, and it's still in great shape. I mean, with the new mid-engine platform, it feels totally different than any American car I've ever driven. Granted, I've never driven a Ford GT before, but this being a Corvette, it still feels like a Corvette deep down in its soul. With that LT2 V8 that's a push rod, it's got that American vibe that you want out of it, but then again, with the mid-engine attributes of it, you're starting to look pretty crazy, right? Just like a McLaren or a Lamborghini. Anyways, I want to make this video because now that I'm officially an exotic supercar owner, I have a better understanding of what the C8 Corvette is trying to be or compete against. So in all honesty, when I first got this car, it blew me away, and it still does. I love this car right here. It doesn't feel like your average American car at all. It's so unique and so special in every single way that I love it. And I know so many of you out there who own these cars, and you also feel the same way. There's nothing like it. And plus, once you get into the driver's seat, the way it just wraps around you like a cockpit is unreal. And as you can see with the interior, the car is not just sporty, but it's luxurious. I mean, they've really found the right balance here. They know what they're doing. They've figured it out. Suede, you have leather, you have all these special two-tone accents with custom stitching. I mean, Chevrolet, they know what they're doing right here. They've analyzed and evaluated exotic cars and what makes them so special and luxurious. And I think they've mastered. This is gotta be one of the best cockpits, interior designs that I've ever seen. And there's so much you can do with it. So for their first go with a mid-engine car, as you can see, where are the door panels? Well, they've integrated them actually into the brand new component of this car, the side intakes. So opening it up, everything just flows together so well. It looks exotic, which makes it pop. When I drive this car anywhere, people surround me. They want to take photos of it. They ask me, hey, is that the new mid-engine Corvette? And I smile. I go, yep, it is. What do you think? And the best part is, when I picked up this car from Bowling Green at the National Corvette Museum, you wouldn't believe how many people walked up to me and asked me, is that a Ferrari? And I'm not kidding about this. I've said this once before, and I've gotten comments going, there's no way people thought that's a Ferrari. But for those of you who aren't exactly into cars per se, who know all the models, for the average person who sees that car, especially in red, they do think that way. They do ask me that question, which is just so crazy to think about, because I would have never thought someone would walk up to me in a Corvette and say, is that a Ferrari? Because it's just so different, right? No longer do we have the front engine attributes. This is stepping into an entirely new field. And right away, I think Chevy has nailed it so far. We can actually work on this vehicle. So for example, I've done all the oil changes myself, and you can easily get to the engine bay. Just hit this button right here. The whole entire huge back trunk panel lifts up. You can put your roof or your top in the back. So it's an actual Targa top, and then moving this way. Look at that. The LT2 V8 right there. So you can actually work on this vehicle, customize this vehicle. It is really special being able to actually get to your mid-engine V8. The McLaren, for example, you can't exactly do that. It's covered away for the most part. This is very, very convenient, which fulfills what a Corvette is. This is not going to be a super hard car to maintain. It's not going to be too expensive either. And given what Chevy did here, they've prioritized something that's very different and we don't see in the exotic supercar world. We have a frunk and a trunk. And initially, this obviously will speak to the majority of buyers. I think it does. It's very convenient. And being able to put your whole roof in the trunk of the car and it snaps in so it doesn't fly around, that's awesome. So you can get in this car and it can be the perfect GT car. You can drive it anywhere you want, and if it starts raining, put this back on top. And this gets me to my main point of what I've realized with the C8 Corvette. It's a very convenient vehicle, very practical vehicle. If you look at the mid-engine 600 LT McLaren, no, practicality is not its focus. This car's focus is form follows function. This car is made to attack racetracks, be one of the fastest McLarens ever, to be unique, to be track focused, to be an LT, which means long tail. So if you don't know, the LT variants are like what you have with the Corvette. You have the ZR1 Corvette. Well, this is essentially the ZR1 McLaren. That is based on a different series. This is the Sport series, so the ZR1 based off the 570S, exactly called the 600 LT. And with this vehicle right here, given being called longtail, it's a few inches longer front and back, but you also have vertical exhaust. So right away having this car and having that car right there, one crazy thing I'm trying to understand is that how are they able to do this, put this here, but there's no extra space for a trunk? If you look at this vehicle, look how much space we have in the back of the C8 Corvette. What I've realized is this: having this car for as long as I have, what is the trunk actually useful for? Well, taking off the roof for a nice morning drive or just for a sunny, bright day. Also, going places for like storage, right, luggage. And then lastly, just for the practicality, if I want to get something, put it in the trunk of the C8 Corvette. However, for my main use of this car right here, tracking it, I don't ever use the trunk. Actually, every time I track this car, I pull everything out of the trunk. So there's really no use for it. McLaren doesn't need a trunk because, well, they know their target audience. They know that they don't need golf clubs in the back. So I think a big weakness the Corvette has is that there's too many compromises going on. If you want to be track focused, well, there's no need for this huge trunk in the back. But here's why all that's irrelevant. This is a Stingray. This is the Corvette made for the masses. So this works perfectly. But I'm talking about for a Z06, a ZR1, there's honestly no need for that trunk because, as you can see, what's going on with the tail end of the vehicle? Well, you're starting to see a box effect going out and there's all this extra space. Let me go ahead and put the roof back on the car so I can show you how much space is going to be unused for track sessions. And flash forward, I just got the roof back on the car, and as you can see, look at all this unused space. So when I'm on the track, this is always empty. Now, imagine what Chevy can put back here. Components for active aero, for a wing that goes up and down. Also, extra cooling and turbos. There's a lot that all this space can be used for. And by accommodating for all this practicality, I really do hope the Z06 doesn't follow suit because the entire mindset gets changed. And I understand that Corvettes have always had the target top and it makes them really special because of that. But it wasn't such a big factor, I don't think, with the front engine vehicles because, as you know, you always had that single trunk in the back. However, what Chevy's doing here is that now we have two. We have a frunk and a trunk. So imagine if the ZR1 had both a frunk and a trunk if that engine wasn't actually right here. Well, it would be a lot of useless space that would hinder track performance. Does that make any sense? With the trunk down, as you can see, the Corvette does look a lot bigger than the McLaren. Coming to the McLaren right over here, we still have a frunk, so both these cars are similar with that in mind. But what McLaren does is that all the body panels shrink wrap and it bows in right here like a P1, and everything just follows function. This goes all the way down here, wraps around for aerodynamics. The engine's right here, the exhauster right here. By putting the exhaust right here going up, you can have a massive diffuser in the back for airflow. So everything here is about function, not quite practicality. If you compare this design right next to the C8, you have all this excess space in the back, making it big, kind of giving that Camaro-esque look to it. See, as you can see, all this is flat because there is a trunk underneath. And the wing, watch this. What's going on here? Well, the wing is very skinny in the back, and it's like this because you need to be able to pull up the trunk. So you can't put a drastic rear wing on this car with the form following practicality. So I hope I'm making sense right now. I know this is a very strange way to look at everything. I know that you probably haven't heard anyone talk like this before about both these cars, but this is something I've really noticed about both cars right here. The McLaren, it's all about function. This car does make a few compromises when it comes to practicality, but again, this is a Stingray making $30,000 a year or so. What I'm trying to say is this though. For this car to be able to compete with the likes of a 600 LT or a Performante or an Evo, I honestly think that all this focus on having a trunk that you can put golf clubs in, it's not going to be very useful for us track-focused people. And I understand most people don't track their cars. And with that being said, this is fantastic. This is a perfect car you could probably get because it's just so practical, right? But I don't buy a McLaren because I want practicality. I buy it because I want one of the fastest cars ever on the racetrack. Just performance. And that's what this car gives me right here. By having a front and a trunk, I think the Corvette becomes a bigger vehicle and it gives a lot of unused space, which could be used for performance enhancements. Put it this way, how can Chevy ever make a wing like this on the back of the vehicle? They honestly can't because this whole deck lid right here is made just for you to open it up to get to that trunk. So I am wondering how the future of the Corvette C8 is going to turn out to be. What's really cool is that I've actually had people from Chevrolet talk to me who watch our videos from us tracking it. And it's awesome. It really means a lot. And all I'm trying to say is from my use of driving this car, 15,000 miles and tracking it multiple times a month at tracks like Laguna Seca, Willow Springs, it's all over the place in California. I think for the future of Corvette to compete with the car that I have over there, like McLaren's, I think there needs to be more focus on the performance instead of the practicality with it. It's the same reason why you don't see an Evo with a trunk or a 488 or the new F8 with a trunk. It all goes down to that. I know I'm only one guy, only one voice, but I know I speak for a lot of you out there who own this car and who tracks it. I think for the Z06 to be a proper supercar, there needs to be less focus on comfort and more focus on performance. More downforce in the front end, like the 600 LT with that huge front splitter poking out. Not just that, coming this way, we need our compound tires front and back, Cup 2s. Also, bigger brakes up front. You know how big these brakes are? They're four piston brakes. That is super small. So on track, you go through brake pads super quickly. Now with bigger brakes, that should solve that to a certain extent. With that being said, with bigger rotors, all that extra surface area should also help cooling. Coming to the interior, the seats are actually, I think, really good for a race car. So no changes there necessarily, except maybe offer a package that is not fully electronic, that being with heated and cooled functions. Without all the extra electronics, the seat could actually sit closer to the floor of the vehicle. As you can see right here, we have all this space, right, for seat controls. If this was a manual seat that was to the floor, we'd have a better seating position as well as we'd lose a lot of weight. Also, we need more downforce in the rear. Tracking this car as much as I have, downforce could really improve the performance of the vehicle, I think, through the corner entry and exit phases, also mid-corner, because it'll allow for much more grip front and back. And coming to the engine, this is the sole part of this car that is holding it back from being able to compete with the McLaren. Let me pop this trunk again for like the 4th time in this video, but I gotta show you this. This V8 right here really performs on track. I'm not kidding about that. The feedback and how linear it is what you're looking for. It's not gonna bite you out of nowhere with the increased power band. From the bottom to the top of the RPM, this car makes you feel confident, and it sounds really good too doing it. But the power is not that good for overall track use. Now, cornering speeds are great on this car. However, I'm thinking that without that extra power, you're really not going to be able to compete with other vehicles out there on track when I'm going against a McLaren or a Lamborghini. Yes, I can corner probably as hard as them sometimes, depending on who's driving, but when it comes to exiting a corner, they're just gone. I can't even touch them. This engine, we need more power in the back, and having a trunk where the turbo is going to be. Right here in this trunk compartment could be active aero components for a bigger wing, also turbos and the cooling for it. A lot can be done. With that increased power output, we need more race-inspired suspension. All of this will come together to make this car perform so well on the racetrack, and I think what Chevy has here, they have a formula, if implemented right, could make this one of the fastest cars you can buy for the racetrack and take down so many of the legendary big names that have been in the business for so long making mid-engine cars. If they make this car like the C8R with a flat plane crank in the back, this would be, I think, almost untouchable to a certain extent for the price point. Lastly, and I think it's one of the most important things that Chevrolet needs to consider to make this car a supercar, is to lighten it up. This right here weighs 3,600 pounds. How much do you think my McLaren weighs? Any guesses to that? Take a look at it. It does look smaller than the Corvette, I will say that. I need to get to the point. This car is fully carbon fiber tub. Let me open the door so I can show you. Watch this. With the doors going up, see this carbon fiber door sill? This just shows you what I'm talking about. Down here, the floor to the cabin is carbon fiber. This has a carbon fiber monocoque chassis. All in all, this car weighs 2,900 pounds, 700 pounds lighter than the C8, with that extra power advantage, with those twin turbos in the back, and weighing 700 pounds less. There's no comparison between the C8 and the McLaren. And when I say weight savings, there's a lot of different ways that Chevy can do this. Having a fully leather interior, that's got to weigh something. Now, if you don't know this, Alcantara could be as much as 50% lighter than leather. So having a full Alcantara interior in the C8 could make a world of a difference. Not just that, I honestly feel like this design right here could be holding this car back. All this is extra space for these buttons. Now with the McLaren, all these climate control buttons are integrated in the touchscreen. So if you think about it, all this does is add extra weight and extra wiring components for each button to light each one up, etc. This, if all this was implemented into that screen right there to our left, you would see a huge weight savings. I'll say this. I know this may come off weird and different. I'm not ripping on this car. I love it. If you know me, you know I love this car right here. But I'm being completely honest with you now that I own an exotic supercar. What could be used to actually make this car get to the same level? Being the weight factor is very important. It's so apparent. And also this car is a lower horsepower rating than compared to like an F8 or an Evo. It is not a supercar, I don't think, just quite yet in comparison to those standards. There's still a lot of things that can be implemented into this car to make it fulfill that, to make it feel much more race-inspired, to make it a lot faster in the racetrack. In terms of what they have so far, this is one of the best cabins that I think there is in the supercar business. This car looks and feels like a supercar from the lower speeds, from accelerating and also just from normal driving feel. But top end wise and performance on track, it's just not quite there yet. Now opening the door, the McLaren 600 LT, and getting inside. Now this is the challenge right here. Okay, so this is where it gets really hard because we have super wide door sills in the McLaren, but here we are. I have made it inside. Let's close the door. Now, as you can see, there's a lot less going on in this car, right? Are there any buttons on the steering wheel? No. Extra weight savings everywhere. The only buttons you have in this car really are your windows up and down, your door handle. Also, you have drive, neutral, and reverse, your hazards, and then all your special performance modes. You may be wondering, so again, where are the climate controls? Because with the Corvette, you have a huge column dedicated to climate controls. To get to that, you turn on the car. The car vibrates, it's really fun doing that. This way though, as you can see, we have a fan. You click on it, and everything you need right here is integrated into the touchscreen, like an iPad. So you got max heat, just play around with all this stuff, and then choose if you want. Look at that, it actually shows a racing helmet for normal airflow coming towards you. And then down here, look at that, everything is controlled through the system. How much weight savings is that right there? Just think about it. I hope I'm not coming off strange bringing that up, but there's so much you can do to lighten up a car. And this car right here have an Alcantara everywhere. I think the fans are turning on. Let's raise the windows. And having carbon fiber, again, if the Corvette team goes down this path for the future, I mean the Z06, the ZR1, even the Zora coming out, could be unstoppable. And then back to my point of having the seats being non-electronic, they're literally just bolted on rails on the floor. So then I'm sitting as low as I probably can be. And then moving the seat, just push up, and then there we go, I'm race ready. Nothing to worry about. That's all I need for the racetrack. I don't need heated and cooled this and that. It's very convenient, but the focus, you start losing the focus because make a lot of compromises here and there to please everybody. We need a car from Corvette, from Chevy, that pleases us who want to go as fast as possible. Anyways, hope you enjoyed watching this video. Basically what I think is Chevy doing it right with the C8 Corvette. Is it a supercar? Quite yet. And this is just my honest feedback and opinion from buying this car right here and getting a real taste of what one of the fastest supercars is like on the street. And then I can't wait to track this as well. I'm still a huge Corvette fan, and I'm making this again because I am so excited to see what Chevy comes out with next. That being whether it's a Z06 or a Grand Sport or a new name car. I know it's going to be fantastic because they know what they're doing when it comes to racing. Thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, make sure to hit that like button. Just help me out. Also subscribe for much more great supercar content coming your way. I'll see all of you in the next episode.